Good evening, everyone. Would everyone please rise? We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Wilson.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this city council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, thoughtfulness in our deliberations. Give us the strength and the wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all of our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman Nash, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Beginning this evening, we'll start with citizen comment general. One person has signed up, and that is Mr. Marvin Cerruto. Sir, the floor is yours. 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. The CMAQ presentation, thank you very much. I'll answer the question right off. You were asking about public opinion, and this is just my opinion. I hope I represent some of the citizens here. We always encourage a organization or committee to do good and to be better at something. As a matter of fact, I worked for Florida Power and Light. I was a betterment engineer, along with being a nuclear reactor operator at one time. And the one thing that the public will always be is cautious. They weren't against the organization. It was just that they were against how some of the authority was trampled. And that's all I'll say about that. As far as the renewables, you're still going to have to dispose some of that equipment. I hope they've looked really ahead and looked into the cost and the feasibility of that. Nuclear power, it's still base loaded. Nuke plants go to 100%. It's the cheapest form of producing electricity. I really wish we were still building nuclear power plants. And we can take care of that waste. We have the technology for that also. And just a congratulation on the Nordson expansion. That's the type of thing, I don't know if you remember 5, 6 years ago, I'd come in here and say, let's build a factory. I think if we build a factory, I've seen it in some other towns, good things happen. I'm glad to see that expansion. I hope they go to the schools and speak with students at schools. I remember when Federal Paperboard came and spoke with us, they wanted to send people to Syracuse to get chemical engineering degrees. I had considered that. I joined the Navy instead. I did end up in chemistry. But between that and the electric boat, I think this area could be a very, very lucrative place for a good source of revenue, a nice middle class. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak to the citizens, to the council on open citizen comment this evening? Yes, sir.
I'll echo Marvin's comments about nuclear power. I sat at my desk, Pier 33, one Christmas. There were 16 submarines tied up at the pier, and nobody knew it. 16 nuclear power plants, and nobody knew it at all. I have yet to wear a dosimeter to go on board a nuclear submarine. And I'm aware of what nuclear power is. My comments tonight is, I'm wondering how come we're talking about building a mega school. We just got done tearing down 2 schools, and I hear this rumble about we're going to build a mega school, a central school, some sort of thing. I'm not sure. But the last I heard, we were so-so on declining enrollment, perhaps, even, in our school system. If it wasn't for the casinos bringing in people from out of this state, we wouldn't have a burgeoning population of younger people. And I still think that the casinos should have to pay a pilot payment to help out the towns around here, because what they're looking for is young employees, and if they're bringing young employees in here, they're gonna have 2, 3, or 4 kids to come along with them. As most of you folks know, I'm a landlord, and I'm quite aware of how many kids that these people bring in. There's nothing wrong with that. I came to this part of the country 50 years ago. No kids. But I worked at Electric Boat. And I just think that we got to stop just spending or throwing money away. I applaud the last council for keeping the lid on spending, but the general population of the city of Norwich doesn't seem to understand that. So if they don't understand it enough, I'm an old guy, I'm not going to pay for these things, so sock it to them.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else under citizen comment like to join us this evening? On non-agenda items, anyone else to join us? Third and final time, anyone else like to join us on non-agenda items? Seeing no one else, I declare it closed, and I thank you both for your comments.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for February 18th, 2020. The mayor and I attended a press conference and rally at Dodge Stadium. There were additional council people there, by the way, that was held by U.S. Representative Joe Courtney, local dignitaries, and representatives from the community regarding the effects of contraction of minor league teams in our region. Approximately 100 people turned out to show their support to our team, the Sea Unicorns. I held the goal-setting session for the council on Saturday, February 8th. I received the draft report from the facilitator today and will be providing a copy once I have reviewed. The Southeast Area Transit District seat informed the city and surrounding towns that on Transit Equity Day, they had 3,928 boardings, which was a 34% increase to the average weekday in February. Just as a note, as you recall, Transit Equity Day, there was no cost to ride. As of February 3rd, 2020, the January installment of tax payments at Norwich People's branches increased by 118 payments, 30.3%, and 204.8 thousand, 34.9 increase. Fourth and fifth graders from Mahan School visited the City Hall on February 7th and 11th. Thank you to Betsy Barrett, City Clerk, for leading the tours, and Jackie Barbarossa, Executive Assistant, and Bonnie Kerback, Mayor Secretary, for assisting with the students. The city's Community Development Office is accepting Community Development Block Grants applications for program year 46, which is September 1st, 2020 to August 31st, 2021. The anticipated amount from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is approximately $828,000. Applications will be accepted until 4 p.m. on March 11th, 2020 at the Community Development Office located at 23 Union Street. Details are available on the city's website, Facebook, and through the Office of Community Development. Building official James Troger has announced his retirement after 25 years of service with the city. His last day with the city will be February 19th, that's tomorrow. Thank you for your years of service and enjoy your retirement. Finally, my office has received an interesting piece of history from a retired attorney who presented us with a brass container approximately 4 inches high, 7 inches in diameter, claiming it was evidence from a case from 30-plus years ago. My assistant is working with city historian Dale Plummer, who believes the item is from the mid-1800s. To determine the case in question, I will provide more information when received. It's on our conference table where Jackie is, by the way. So, interesting mystery. More on that. Tune in. And that's my report for this evening.
Thank you. Before I ask for questions, just remind council members and anyone in the public interested, Senator Blumenthal will be here at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. It's a continued effort on his part and other U.S. senators to address the issue of the contraction of minor league baseball. He will be discussing a resolution that the Senate will be introducing for their response. And also this other little bit of information, Norwich was recently named as the best city for singles. I'm not sure what that means, but I didn't have time to replicate the article, but I will share it with everyone, get it out to you tomorrow. Something new every day. Questions of the city manager? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
So my question is about the tax payment increase and the dollar increase. Is that relative to your last report from 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, other questions? Yes, Alderwoman Miles.
Just one quick question. Could you explain a little bit more about the block grant, for the community so they can understand what they're actually applying for?
Sure. Well, it's a fairly broad grant. It can be used by the city for infrastructure improvements, sidewalks, roads, and it also can be used by nonprofits in the community for programs that would benefit the community, such as violence against women, shelters, soup kitchen, things like that. They can apply too. It is somewhat competitive. There is $898,000. It goes through a review process by a committee, and then ultimately there's a public hearing, and the council is the entity that approves the amount of money later on in the fiscal year. So it's pretty broad, and we do put it on the webpage now, and it gives the criteria for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would also add, if I may, that only things that can be considered when the council gets to decide on where the funding is to be awarded are actual things that were applied for and had a public hearing with the Community Development Block Grant Board. You cannot amend that program, so it only goes through their purview, and we're limited to the amount of money. There are also limitations on the amount of funds in what you might call categories. I think 20% is the maximum that can be used for administration.
That's correct.
Just as one example. In the past, it actually provided funding for a position of a community police officer, a sergeant's position, when we began to bring community policing back to the city. But the funds do have limitations as well. Other questions? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Mine's not a question. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Jim Troger for 25 years of service to the city.
Thank you. I think
You'll
we
be
all,
missed.
I'll agree with you 100%.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
I declare that open, and the first person signed up is Mr. Marvin Cerruto.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. And I'm speaking on resolution number 3, which I would like to also encourage each and anybody out there. For those of you who may hear me on the radio, I try to encourage people to participate as much as possible. Presently, my career has brought me to a lot of time being involved with veterans, and I don't have the opportunity to get involved with committees. I thought at this point I would, but it seems I have less time now than I did when I was a teenager. I hope as we bring people into the committees and into the government that they fully understand our system of checks and balances. There have been a couple of national articles out where our young people are being educated in a way where checks and balances aren't part of the curriculum. I'm not really familiar with the curriculum. It's been about 25 years since I taught school, so, and I went by sunshine standards. I know Connecticut has a compulsory law. I haven't really looked into it too much. Some of you may be familiar with that. But the best in recruiting, I'll try to do the best I can, and since this is the singles capital of the world, you could use that as a recruiting tool for our committees. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What happens to all the married people? Let's know.
I don't know. Yes, the next person is Linda Thedora, please.
Linda Theodorou, 37 Taffville Ockham Road, Norwich. I'm commenting on resolution number 4 tonight. Selecting the most qualified candidates for committee memberships is what is best for the city of Norwich. Recently, the most qualified candidate for the Golf Course Authority was passed over, and instead, someone much less qualified was selected. Sue Dutilly is a lifelong golfer who went to Penn State University on a full athletic scholarship. She has been a youth sports coach, a physical education teacher for more than 25 years, a champion golfer who is well respected, and a longtime member of the Norwich Golf Course. These are real qualifications. Being buddies with existing members of the authority or being male are not qualifications. Not only would Sue Dutilly bring much needed expertise and fresh insight to the authority, but as a bonus, she would become the only woman on it. This would be an opportunity to put into action tonight's resolution number 3. I recommend that for the benefit of Norwich taxpayers, Sue Dutilly should be appointed to the Golf Course Authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the resolutions? Yes, please.
Good evening, Sheila Hayes, 382 Laurel Hill Avenue. So I'd like to address resolution number 3 first, and that is asking you to support the diversity in the boards, committee, and commissions. I often am contacted by chairs of boards, committees, or commissions, or agencies asking for recommendations or for me to reach out personally, not with any particular hat I wear in the city, but asking me to reach into the different communities and the different ethnic groups that I work with or come in contact with in young people. That's the other, and as well as women and people of various gender, religious, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds. So I'm hoping that you will support the resolution because we need to work with a variety in people and be inclusive as we move forward into this decade, especially looking to include our younger people, and younger for me is 40 and under. They're a missing link in the city, and without them, I believe that we miss some very valuable information to move the city forward. With respect to resolution number 4, my address to Sue Dutilly is the fact that I've known her in a professional way. I'm not going to go over her credentials. I've known her since 1995, 96. She was involved with some of the organizations and activities that my children were involved in. She was often an advocate for athletics and getting young people and introducing young people to new and exciting opportunities in athletics that didn't deal always with teams. So individual sports are important to her. Individual sports were important to me and to young people that I was working with. So I would just, from a professional standpoint, Sue Dutilly always displayed professionalism. She was always somebody who could be relied on, and she was looked up to by the young people as well as the adults that worked with her and around her. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to us on items on our agenda?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jan Sawicki, 39 Andrea Lane, Norwich, Connecticut. I'd just like to echo the sentiments for Sue Dutilli as a professional in our community, somebody that would do us all very good in the position as suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen comment is still open. Anyone else like to speak on the resolutions on the agenda? Bless you. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on items on the agenda? Third, final time. Anyone like to join us? Seeing no one else, like to declare citizen comment closed. And thank you all for sharing your concerns.
Resolution number 1, relative to placing in suspense account certain real estate taxes.
A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 2, relative to an appointment of an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Wilson and Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion? Seeing none, the person being appointed as an alternate is Mrs. Joanne Philbrick. All those in favor of the resolution? That's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 3, relative to diversity on city committees, commissions, boards, and authorities.
A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderwoman Wilson. Is there discussion? Alderman Gould.
I'd like to make a motion that we send this resolution to be reviewed by the Diversity Committee of the City of Norwich for their review and recommendation.
Is there a second? Alderman Nash. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So I think, part of it is I couldn't tell you the last time the Diversity Committee fully met. And I think, when you look at this resolution, it's really just giving a directive for us to do what's necessary here in the city of Norwich as aldermen and women. I think it's laid out flat. I think we know that diversity is an area that we need to continuously work on and improve. And I don't think sending this to the Diversity Committee for review changes the perspective or the information on what needs to get done. I think it's the starting point to what we do next. And part of it is us continuing to push it off to other committees for consideration does not help us move the city in any way forward.
Thank you. Pro Tem Betancourt.
I mean, the resolution in and of itself is really very basic. I mean, it sets out, I think, it's more of a statement of intent and a goal. And certainly, I don't think a diversity committee would have any objection to it. I don't really see a need to refer this to the committee at this stage. Certainly, if we found problems with it later on, we could address it as a council.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my first thought is that, this being my third year on the council and spending 2 of those years on the appoint-reappoint committee and never seeing a person come up for reappointment to the diversity committee, I would wonder if there are enough members appointed to the diversity committee at this time to even hold a meeting or to establish a quorum so that they could hold a meeting if they wanted to. And again, I agree with the comments of the pro tem that that this is stating a position and a belief of this council. I don't believe that it does us any service to have the diversity committee weigh in, nor would they have a challenge with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Alderman Nash?
I don't really have I just more like have a statement of whether, I don't know what we're trying to do with this. If we have a diversity committee, then what we should try to do is get the diversity committee to meet and have them actually do their job. Here we are again, coming out from the dais saying, we want this diversity committee because there's not enough diverse citizens involved in the politics in our city, and we actually have a committee, whether it's meeting or not, isn't a story. Make it meet, tell it to meet, so they can start going out and recruiting the individuals that we feel need to be added to our community and diversity. So I'm not really sure what this is supposed to mean. If we have a diversity committee, then have the diversity committee meet and do its job.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
So just to respond to that, you know, this is not creating a diversity committee. Like they said, it's in the intent of what we're, you know, it's not creating a committee. This is telling us that as aldermen and women in the city, doing our part to promote diversity in the city. This is not telling the diversity committee they need to meet, they need to come up with applicants, because that's not the mission or the intent of this. Our intent is to inform, educate, and get individuals engaged in what we do here in the city. So this is not for the diversity committee to go out and do the work that us as elected officials should be doing. This is not giving them that directive they need to meet, because like I've said, this does not solve that overall problem. You know, this is us just saying that we want to promote diversity within the city, and doing our part as aldermen and women in promoting and getting people from different backgrounds and walks of life to be a part of the process. This has nothing to do with the diversity committee needing to meet and come up with a strategic plan on how to get this done.
Thank you. Alderman Bencourt.
Just a question that I already posed to you, and you told me, when was the last time the diversity committee actually met?
My information, because I looked into this, it's September of 2018, which demonstrates a need for them to have a higher role and a role to play. It's chaired by our Human Resource Director, Bridget Marks, and it's actually comprised of people who work for the City of Norwich. There's a representative of the police department who's also a member. It's not a publicly appointed group like we go through in our normal process. It's supposed to be an ongoing, active group. And clearly, through the benefit of going through this discussion and this resolution, I've learned some things that I think can be beneficial to everyone. We want them to be more engaged. I mean, a referral would gain that opportunity. So anyway, maybe a little longer than you asked for in an answer, but I won't speak.
Then on the motion, though, if you don't mind, the fact of the matter is that since the committee hasn't met in something like a year and a half, I would consider that kind of defunct almost, and it's not you know, I can't see putting a resolution like this to them at this point. If they want to get, I would say that I'm not sure if the city managers would be involved in this, or if it's a case that the chairman has to be involved in this, that you know, we should be placing a higher priority on that particular activity. And with that said, I think this resolution would bring us towards, you know, one step closer towards a stated goal. So I don't believe we should be sending it to the diversity committee at this time if it isn't active.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I'm sorry. Alderman Gould, please.
Well, I'll go back and say, you know, I don't think we need a resolution to say that we're a welcoming, diversified community, that we don't want people to come and serve on our boards and commissions. My only thought was, maybe there's something that we need to be putting in here. And that recommendation could come from Human Resources here at the city, from someone who's, I believe Kerry Kemp from MPU is on this, the police department is on this. I'm only trying to see if there's something that we're missing and ask them to recommend any kind of revision. I'm not saying that they have to take this on for the next 6 months. I don't think it would be too long for them to look this over and come back at next month's meeting and say, listen, we looked this over, it looks good. All I'm asking, and all I was asking for was a recommendation and a review by them, just to see what they think. Because I think we do a good job in the city of being diverse and welcoming and putting all kinds of people from all kinds of walks of life on our boards and commissions. And I don't think we need a resolution to tell people, come and apply and serve your community.
Thank you. The city manager would like to.
I'd just like to clarify a little bit in behalf of the Human Resources Director that that is one of her prime responsibilities is in recruitment of personnel and hiring of personnel, and diversity in all its manifestations is a very important component of that. So although the committee hasn't met formally since 2018, I want to assure the council and the public that the city takes it very seriously, and the Human Resource Director is involved in many aspects of diversity programs.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Mr. Mayor, I realize this is my second time speaking on this motion. To the city manager's point, I know all those things that you said, Mr. Solomon, are true, but those are directed at our hiring practices, not appointments to boards and commissions and authorities and such. That is the purview of this council and of all councils that sit up here. That is where this resolution is pointed. And just with a quick check, thank heavens for technology, but with a quick check, there is no diversity committee listed on the city's website. So I believe for the purposes of this resolution, with this council and future councils being its intended target, for lack of a better word, I don't believe that the motion to refer is appropriate.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the motion to refer? Seeing none, all those in favor on the motion to refer? All those opposed? Motion fails. Vote is 1-6. On the resolution before us, is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the acknowledgement. I think, so just bringing up several points. When we look at our city, we're over the 30% diversity hump as a city. The other part is as stated in the resolution, our population should be reflected within our boards and commissions here in the city. So part of that is when you talk to individuals within the city, it's not, the process is not always easy for people to understand what you need to go through in order to get appointed or reappointed to a board and commission. Part of our job as elected officials is to also, beyond encouraging them, is to educate somewhat individuals on being a part of the process of decision-making here in the city. So part of that is, you know, I don't mind setting up community forums where sitting down with different civic organizations and groups, educating them on the process you go through in order to be considered for an appointment here in the city. I think it's important that the more people that are knowledgeable of the steps, their criteria, that each board and commission and authority have behind their names is important. So part of it is doing that legwork. The other part is we as the city manager has stated, diversity is an ongoing goal of the Human Resource Director. As we're out, we champion as a city this global cities. We have many festivals and events happening culturally in the city, where different individuals from different walks of life, ages, all are coming together to celebrate different causes. And part of it is as we're out at these events, it doesn't take but a second to have a table or a booth where people can come and ask us questions. Part of it is we've got to meet people where they are. Not everyone, as we can see, is going to make it to a city council meeting. Not everyone is going to read every single minute of the city council. And part of it is in order for people to be engaged, we've got to engage them too. So we can't tell people to step up. We can't tell people to serve their community if they don't fully understand the process. So part of it is not everybody knows the process that it goes through. Some people think maybe you just sign up and you're there. But part of it is us educating different walks of life. We have people that move here into this community and may not understand all the different parts of this community. So all this is saying is encouraging us to do our part in our everyday work of just encouraging individuals to come forward. But the other part is cultivating that next group of leaders here in the city. Understanding and being a part of a commission is important. Maybe the first time around they don't get appointed because they may not know all the nuances to it, but they now know how to point themselves in the direction and understanding what that specific appointment does. The other part is diverse viewpoints help bring about new and creative and innovative thinking here in the city. And no one should or would dispute that new and creative thoughts to spark new conversations, new way of doing things, new way of looking at things are important. And I think it's important to have critical viewpoints on all our boards and commissions because it makes us a better city, but it also allows us to be a more proactive city to all of the things that may be going and happening within those specific areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Just for the record, the process we have now is open and transparent, and the people who work on these appointment boards work very hard. The previous method was you had to gain favor basically with the town committee to get appointed to any board or commission, and there was nothing open or transparent about that whatsoever. We changed that process back around 2011, and we started this process where people could apply online. Again, they don't have to come down here and fill out an application. They can do it from the comforts of their home. So I think we've improved the process greatly. And I don't want anyone leaving tonight thinking that we have a process that's closed, because it is not. It's nothing like it used to be. If you didn't know someone on the town committee, you couldn't even be considered for appointment to any board or commission. That was a very closed system. That has been done away with a long time ago. That's my 2 cents. Any further discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to say that I agree with you. For anybody who might take offense that this is some sort of condemnation or finger pointing, it is not. It is really just swinging the door wide open, as you said, to get this into the, more into the light and take the transparent process that we already have and just renew our commitment that that process is open to everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor of the resolution? It's unanimous, 7-0.
Number 4, relative to an appointment to the Norwich Golf Course Authority.
Motion, please, to put this on the floor. Alderwoman Miles, second by Alderman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderman Gould?
I'd like to make a motion to refer this appointment to the reappointment, to the Reappointment Subcommittee of the City Council.
Is there a second? Alderman Bettencourt. Is there discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
It is my understanding that this candidate has been interviewed 2 times. It's also my understanding that that all candidates were given their fair due, so to speak, and their opportunity to present themselves to the Reappoint Committee. We have a motion before us. I don't believe that it needs a third review by that subcommittee of the council. I believe it is a resolution that is ready to move forward by this body.
Thank you, sir. Any further comment? Yes, Alderman Bencourt.
The fact of the matter was, this resolution bypassed our established process. So we can talk about open meetings and stuff where we can actually have them. In this particular case, it was submitted as out of a caucus decision. That is not the process we have established. The process, at the night that the day the resolution was considered, the appoint-reappoint committee was meeting, and part of the intent was to reconsider that. This resolution headed that off. So it's my intention only that these things be done. Now, we may be looking at this very same resolution after the next meeting of the appoint-reappoint committee. So, but with that said, I do believe that these things should be made as a result of, open meetings where we have an active committee that's tasked with that task. So we were going, as a committee, going to, review that appointment, but, this resolution headed it off, and I would appreciate it being referred back to the committee so that it can do its work. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Gould.
I would concur with Pro Tem Betancourt's remarks. The subcommittee was going to be considering who to put on the Golf Course Authority, and this resolution was presented by the members of the Democratic Caucus. And if we're going to have people who are willing to serve on boards or commissions, they have to know that they're going to go in front of the board and the reappoint subcommittee and not be picked by a caucus. If we're going to have a transparent process and everyone goes in front of the reappoint subcommittee and then it goes to the council, it should not be coming out of a caucus who decides who's going on what committee. That we've tried to get rid of this old boys club a long time ago, and now we're going right back to it.
Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So I think the other part, stating the point that Joe made, is interviews were had. Part of it is as a council, even though a recommendation comes from the subcommittee, does not mean necessarily as a council that has to be the selection that we go for. It's not always that the recommendation is selected. I think part of it is as a council, we're here for a reason, and it's not every single appointment that comes out of committee is going to be yes for that. We have the ability, knowing we have individuals from both parties sitting within that committee, have sat through the interview. But I think part of it is sending it back for a third look. It just doesn't make any sense. We've got plenty of other things that can be that need to be worked on, and quite frankly, this is an appointment that's been going on well even before this council was seated. So I think continuing to draw this process out does not help anyone.
Alderman DeLucia.
Again, Mr. Mayor, I realize this is my second time speaking on the motion. And again, Alderman Wilson alluded to it, and I'll say it more plainly. Subcommittee recommendations are exactly that, recommendations. The council is free and has often acted one way or another in spite of a committee's recommendation. And we don't have to look any further back than our last reappointment to the NPU board and the appointment before that, and several other appointments that I've seen come and go in the last 2+ years that I've been sitting up here, okay? The council decides who gets appointed. The committee does not need, in my view, nor does not deserve a third bite at the apple, all right? That's why it's called leadership, because it happens here.
Thank you, Alderman Bettencourt.
My second bite with the apple, if you will. The fact of the matter, it's this council's second review of this particular appointment, not a third. I mean, that might have happened before with the other council, but this particular case, we interviewed both candidates. I thought a decision had been made, a different resolution was submitted, and then there was a question as to what the actual opinions of some of the people involved were. So I had the resolution withdrawn, and I made some other inquiries trying to, get an understanding of some of the things that were going on. So with that said, it was our intent at the last meeting, the same day that this was intended, to review that situation. So I was surprised when I found out that the resolution had already been submitted. So in my opinion, it should be sitting back at the committee. And again, I'll say that we may very well be looking at the very same resolution once we're done, but just the same, I do believe in process, and that, an open process, and that people should know what to expect if they're going to apply for boards and commissions and, in the future. So.
Thank you. Is there further discussion or comment?
Yes,
Alderman
I do have a
Miles.
comment. Honestly, I think referring this back to appoint, reappoint, we're going to wind up right here in the same situation. Stalemate, discussion. I think it's a monumental waste of time of the commission to continue to hash out this appointment over and over and over. And if this council cannot find, just cause to appoint a woman to the Golf Authority, what does that say about the prospects for anyone else that wants to apply for boards or commissions? What does that say about our goal of getting diverse individuals to serve on these boards and appointments? I don't see a point of referring this back to the committee.
Thank you. Alderwoman Gould.
Okay, so my second bite. This has nothing to do with the name on the resolution. What this has to do with is the process. If the reappointment subcommittee makes a recommendation to the council does not have to accept the recommendation. But if the process is that you apply, you are interviewed by the appointment and reappointment subcommittee, and then we present a resolution to the council for consideration, that should be the process. And we may very well be back here, but this has nothing to do with the name of the person on the resolution. If we're going to have a process where the committee interviews and makes a recommendation, then that's what the committee should get to do.
Alderman Wilson, please.
So I will say that that's no different than a recommendation being presented and realizing that the individual that others on the council consider, and then putting forth a resolution as well. I mean, this is part of the process. And in leadership, yes, it's already been interviewed by the subcommittee, but part of that is the interviews have happened. Information has been disseminated and understood because we have individuals on both sides that have been a part of those conversations. So us coming forward with a resolution does not stop that process. I think part of it is if we feel there's cause, there's nothing stopping us from presenting this resolution. It's not circumventing the process. This appointment has been going on for some time.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Okay, the motion on the floor at this time is to refer to the Appointment Reappointment Committee. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes a vote of 4-3. The matter is referred.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment? We are adjourned. Thank you all.